Hello and welcome back to the Double A podcast. My name is Aiden Hammond,
And I'm Aditya.
and tonight we're in mourning for Chris Paul.
It's been a rough 24 hours for Chris Paul fans everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, you more than me, but
Yeah,
he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. It's kind of
Chris.
ridiculous to see him go out this way for, frankly, like something that I don't particularly consider to be a egregious offense.
No. So for those that have not been in the NBA media space over the last day, the Clippers sent Chris Paul home. They fired him effectively. Um,
Yeah,
they're on a 5-game road trip, I believe. I think it's Atlanta, somewhere else. I know they're in Atlanta right now. They played the Hawks, or no, yeah, they played the Hawks today. Um, I think they have a few more games on the road, and then they're back in LA. But they sent him home before the game they had tonight, and this is probably, I mean, this is assuming he played the full season. I think this would have been his last time in that southeast quadrant. I don't know. Maybe they have another game against Miami coming up, but um, yeah, his I don't know. It's a lot to process. But the Clippers sent him home. It's over. It's Jover for Chris Paul on the Clippers. Um, he's my second favorite player ever. Him and Dwayne Wade are the reason I like basketball. So seeing it go out, seeing it happen like this, it's painful.
yeah, it's I think a pretty egregious mishandling of the reputation of your franchise with one of your all-time, or really your all-time great player. Like there's really nobody else in the history of the Clippers that's as important to that franchise and as good in that uniform as Chris Paul was.
Oh, absolutely. I
Like
mean, the
it's him and Blake Griffin, and he was a big part of the reason why Blake Griffin is the legend in LA he is.
mhm. and a lot of, I mean, I can't. I use the term success loosely, but a lot of the success the Clippers have had over the last few years, as far as like recruiting Kawhi and Paul George, and getting guys to go there and make the playoffs and getting a fan base in the arena, is built off of those Lob City Clipper years. Because before Chris Paul
Yeah.
got there, they were not only were they bad, but they were also just in the shadow of the other Los Angeles team. And I mean, that never really goes away when it's the Lakers, but it's they were able to build their own identity behind Chris Paul and Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan and that whole Lob City era.
Right. Yeah, it was a fun time in the NBA. That was when I was like really getting into the league like as a whole, not just oh, let's watch the Pacers or whatever
Yeah,
with my dad on, 3 times a week. Um and Lob City was a big part of my interest in the wider NBA, so I'll always uh appreciate Chris Paul for that. Um One thing I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit are potential destinations for Chris Paul because I'm not sure if he's completely done. I've got two places, and I wanna run them by you and see if there's any traction here.
let's hear him.
Number one is not really a destination at all, but actually he just stays in the same place and plays for the Lakers.
Yeah,
Um, I think they could use another rosterable NBA player. They have, uh, a pretty good roster. I've been watching them quite a bit, and I have been liking how they have, adjusted to the LeBron return. Um, that being said, they're still, kind of relying on like Marcus Smart minutes when he's healthy. And if you could if you were like, hey, we've got Chris Paul and Marcus Smart, who would you rather play? I might still say like Chris Paul in limited like spurts, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think at this point, like he can give you, 10 or 15 minutes off the bench if you really need it. I think more so for him, he's obviously this is his farewell tour. This is last season in the NBA. He's made that clear. But also, I mean, he's one of the smartest basketball players of all time. And I think not only could a coaching staff use that, especially a young coach like JJ Redick, but also like Luca, who's already one of the best playmakers in the league, learning a thing or two from Chris Paul, getting his turnovers down, becoming more of a I don't know. I guess Chris Paul taking more of that mentorship role that he's been known to do. Like young guards thrive under Chris Paul. Like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander obviously would have still been great regardless, but he was able to learn a lot from Chris Paul, and a lot of his big jumps happened after Chris Paul left the Thunder. James Harden had his best years with Chris Paul. Like he helps guards a lot, and so I think I do like the LA fit, and I think that's the right choice. Just because one, he's really close with LeBron. Um, two, one of the big reasons for him coming back to the Clippers, one obviously just being that it was a place he called home for a long time and an organization he has a lot of ties with, but also his family's in Los Angeles and he's been away from them for so long. Like that's the thing about the NBA is a lot of these guys are spending most of their time away from home. They miss a lot of their kids growing up. They miss a lot of
Right.
family time. Like Chris Paul, if I remember correctly from the offseason when he signed with the Clippers, one of his big incentives was that he can finally be home with his family and his kids in Los Angeles and he doesn't have
Right.
to be
Well,
traveling all the time.
and it makes sense. Like when you think about like the arcs of NBA careers in relation to like, the life of a young man. Like it is like, oh yeah, Chris Paul is like at the age where most people settle down, marry, and have their children when he was playing for the Clippers the first time. Of course, his family settled in LA
Yeah.
because he had the resources to allow them to do that. Like they didn't have to move with him. He
Right.
could afford to have two homes.
And especially like
So,
later in his career when he was hopping from team to team for, he'd be in a place for
right,
like
like
maybe
there's
two
no
years or
reason
whatever.
for his family to move with him when he was in his like hired mercenary period. Like
Yeah.
that's a, kind of absurd expectation I think to have of
Yeah.
your, young children.
Yeah. So
And yeah, that absolutely makes sense.
So that's why I think the Lakers are the most likely destination. I think if he decides to suit up for another NBA game in his career, it will be for the Lakers. But that being said, I do want to hear your second team because I have a team that I was like, if Chris Paul could go anywhere, where would I want him to go? And so I want to hear yours.
I think it's the same one that you have. Mine is the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Oh, mine's different. I mean, the OKC
Okay.
Thunder makes sense just because so he can compete for a championship.
I have this for a couple reasons. I saw a tweet today that was talking about how like Chris Paul actually played his first season in Oklahoma City. Like
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
his
yeah.
first
Hurricane
year
Katrina,
in the
right?
NBA was post Katrina. New Orleans didn't have a stadium. They played in Oklahoma City. That year was kind of a trial period for professional basketball in Oklahoma City. It was pretty successful. That ushered in, the Thunder, the Sonics moving to Oklahoma City, becoming the Thunder. Blah blah blah. There is a clear through line from Chris Paul to professional basketball in Oklahoma City.
Right.
He played there. He was, he passed all for one on to Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and then
You mean one for all? All for one's the bad
oh
guy.
yeah, fuck
You don't.
yeah,
You don't
I
want
messed up that
Shay's
analogy.
unless Shay's the villain. If you think
No,
Shay's
Shea's got all for
Shigaraki,
no,
then
Shea's got all for one after the finals too.
yeah, he's Shigaraki, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, he used decay on Tyrese Halliburton's Achilles.
Unrelated, but I just got introduced to Overhaul, and he's kind of a badass.
Oh, dude, Shia Saikai, like top 5 anime arc of all time for me.
That's
I
fire.
dead serious. Have you met Togeda yet?
Is that Mirio?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just got to the part where they're like on their patrol and they run into the little girl and
Oh,
Deku
dude!
wants to like save her, but Mirio says to let her go so they don't like mess up Night Eye's plan or whatever.
I'm like I'm so excited for you to watch this.
All
Anyway,
right.
back to the
Back to the
podcast
topic
about
at hand.
basketball that we're actively recording.
Yeah.
So yeah, Chris Paul passed one for all on to Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and then they won a championship, and I want Chris Paul to be there for them to when they win another one, because I think it's gonna happen this year. I think Chris Paul is a pretty clear catalyst for the start of this dynasty. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander still talks highly about him.
Yeah.
Um, I yeah, I would like to see that. And I think that Chris Paul deserves it. If there was ever a player to have like a free run to a ring where I'm like, all right, man, you can just have that, I think it would be him.
Yeah. I I did think about that, and I know there's a lot of people talk about that because obviously he has that OKC connection. He knows all the guys there, and his short but semi successful tenure there ended on a pretty high note. So um, my I guess my team where I was like, if he could go anywhere, where would I want him to go? And that was Denver. I think, again,
Ooh,
not so much from a playing standpoint. I don't think he's going to, at this point in his career, I don't think he's playing too many more minutes anyway. But I think him being kind of a player coach for Jamal Murray, who, I mean, Jamal Murray's, I think, like 28 or 29 or something like that. But I think, some mentorship from Chris Paul could elevate his game a little bit. I think he is the player that he is, but who knows? He could go from averaging 5 or 6 assists to 8. He could
yeah.
kind of be like another playmaker, another playmaking piece when Jokic needs a break. I
He
also think
takes
Jokic
the
could probably learn some stuff from Chris Paul too. I mean, Chris Paul is. I think it's not. I think it's not incorrect to say a top 3 to 5 basketball mind in the history of the game. Maybe
yeah.
higher. Like it depends on who you ask. Like he's he's a savant, and I think Jokic and Chris Paul would be super fun and like in
Jamal Murray
practice.
takes the year 10 leap because of Chris Paul.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even again, I don't think it has to be any like crazy massive statistical improvements, but just like small stuff. So maybe seeing the court a little bit better for him. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Ryan Braun gets a little bit better.
Christian
I
Braun.
mean, you're paying him $100 million.
You mean Christian Braun?
Oh yeah, Ryan Braun's a baseball player. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jesus
But
Christ, I'm
yes,
off.
yeah.
I'm slightly off on everything today.
But yeah, like they have some young guys that could probably learn from Chris Paul too. Like I don't know. I think that's where I'd want to see him go in
Bring
an
back
ideal
Bones
world.
Highland.
Maybe not. But I think the most likely option is Lakers, or he just calls it a career here. I don't really know.
I would agree.
But I wanted to get into the Clippers a little bit because this is a stain on the franchise. The way this is happening. I saw some reports. There was Chris Haynes had some reports. Lou Williams is apparently still close with the franchise and kind of knows what's going on. And he did an interview about it. And I just wanted to kind of go into some of this because it's a bad look for the Clippers, this whole thing. Um,
Right.
so Chris Haynes reported that Chris Paul was notified at like 3 a.m. Eastern time or something crazy. Like he found out like super late last night. The Clippers had just come off a loss and they got stuck in the airport because of plane issues, and they were just having a really shitty day. And then to cap it all off, Chris Paul got this news like super late at night. And there's reports that Chris Paul was just kind of his leadership style clashed with the Clippers. Lou Williams in his interview said that Chris Paul was holding guys accountable was the issue. He was maybe being a bit harsh. I don't know. He was critical of players. He was critical of coaching, and according to what Lou Will said, him being, I guess, critical of the front office and holding the front office more accountable is what was the straw that broke the camel's back. And there are reports that his and Ty Lue's relationship was not good. Chris Haynes said that CP3 tried to set up a meeting with Ty Lue to address this and be like, "Hey, man, I'm hearing rumors that I'm, bad for the locker room and whatever. I want to clear the air with you on this." And Ty Lue refused a meeting with him, and they didn't talk for several weeks.
Yeah.
And as a coach, it doesn't matter what the situation is, that's unacceptable. And I think it's a trend that we've seen with the Clippers over the last few years, which is a complete lack of accountability across the board. Ty Lue's always kind of been the coach that tries to be really chummy and friendly with the players. And because of that, and, with kind of, I guess, what we've been learning more and more about Kawhi's relationship with the Clippers over the last few months, there just doesn't really seem to be a whole lot of accountability going around this team. And I think that is probably what caused all of this to happen in the first place.
Yeah, one of my thoughts was this is a classic Chris Paul situation for him to find himself in. The difference now is that he's 40 and not an all NBA player anymore. But yeah, he's an asshole, and that's a necessary presence to have in an NBA locker room, I think. And the problem with having an asshole in a locker room like the Clippers is assholes are able to find, root out, and call out all of the problems, which is pretty much everything going on with the Clippers as an organization right now, top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
This is, frankly, Chris Paul played for a Donald Sterling-led Los Angeles Clippers team that was horribly ran and maybe in a better place than they are right now. Like, Steve Ballmer is a better owner than Sterling because he's not a piece of shit as a person. But if you go to the basketball decision making on every single level in terms of who he has put in charge and the decisions those people have made and the decisions that Steve Ballmer has made in terms of not cutting bait with, Kawhi Leonard at this point, keeping around, all these different people that have made all these horrible decisions in the front office, is just a complete shit show. And of course Chris Paul was going to walk in and be like, this is a shit show.
Mm-hmm.
Because he can't not.
Yep.
And it has ruined his, final year in the NBA. One interesting thing I saw a couple weeks or this morning was somebody talking about, they were like, I think there's a chance that Chris Paul announced this, retirement thing as a way to kind of get some of the heat off of him from the Clippers and be like, hey, I'm going to retire anyway. You're going to be rid of me. So just, no need to waive me. Just let me finish out the year. And then they still didn't let him finish out the year. And I think that's, interesting because it basically shows like a clear lack of any sort of desire to please one of your franchise legends, or not even please, just like not fuck him over.
Yeah.
This is a guy who, this was one thing I thought about, and I don't know if you agree with this. How the hell can you retire his jersey now?
Yeah, I mean that relationship is. I mean, again, it's hard to know where Chris Paul is at mentally, but that relationship. If I was in his shoes, like fuck that. Like, it's not the same thing, but Vince Carter and the Raptors kind of situation where I don't, they're ending on bad terms.
Absolutely. And it's after bringing him back 6 years after he left the first time.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you
And the
brought
thing is,
him back
too,
in free agency.
everybody knows how Chris Paul is. It's not like he's hidden it this whole time. Like it's not
Right.
it's not like the Clippers org or James Harden or anybody on this team is like finding this out for the first time.
It's frankly one of his most endearing traits from a fan perspective is
Yeah.
you're like, you know exactly what you're getting.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Obviously like you said, the Clippers have a myriad of problems. They're still complete garbage, and waiving the 40-year-old on a minimum contract isn't going to fix any of that. But it is. I mean, it is going to damage their public reputation, and I think players notice things like this. Like I think it's going to be
Oh, for
become
sure.
even harder than it already is for the Clippers to bring guys in and to convince them to like come in and stay in, because this is how you're treating the greatest player in your franchise's history. Like, what am I? You know what I mean? So, I don't know. It's messy.
Well, and I think there's a pretty clear like alternate universe where the Clippers were able to parlay the Kawhi Leonard signing into respect around the league without a championship. Like they didn't have to win a championship. I understand that that was the expectation going into it, and Kawhi Leonard was coming off of his second Finals MVP with his second team, blah blah blah, whatever. I have, I think looking back in retrospect with everything that's happened, all of the embarrassing shit is what has made this a failure.
Yeah.
The Los Angeles Clippers, like, they got Chris Paul in that trade because, the NBA kind of fucked over the Lakers, whatever. Kawhi Leonard was the biggest free agency signing they had ever made. They had signed a guy who was on, like, summer of 2019. Kawhi Leonard was I think, maybe the outside of LeBron James, obviously, the top available free agent that has hit the market that I can remember. Like he was
I
coming off
mean,
of a
2016 KD.
I dude 2019 Kawhi Leonard was coming off of a Finals MVP where the perception, and I don't necessarily agree with it, but the perception was that he kind of put that team on his back.
Yeah.
I like that was a massive deal that they got him. And I think there's a world where even without a championship, people are still like, well, the Clippers got Kawhi. Like, that's maybe we see like a LaMelo Ball go there in free agency, or Scotty Barnes go there, whoever the fuck. And now I think it's kind of like, why would anybody ever go there now?
Mm-hmm. And that's the
They
thing
have
too is, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say like they've missed like Kawhi Leonard, for all of his faults, they've also mishandled everything around the roster construction for the last like 6 years. It's
Oh,
not
absolutely.
like people love to shit on Kawhi Leonard. It's not all Kawhi's fault, man. Like this has
No.
been a poorly run operation since before he got there. He just, got there and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna bring Paul George," and everybody was like, "Oh shit, the Clippers are competent now," and they were never competent.
No. And that's the thing too is like they even after the Paul George and Kawhi signing, like everyone was on alert for the Clippers for like a year and a half. And then they kind of just became a laughing stock again. You had
Yes,
playoff P and that whole debacle, and Pat Beverly telling Steph Curry the next 5 years are mine, and then Kawhi getting hurt constantly, and then even now, like last year, Norman Powell was the Clippers' like second best player because Kawhi never played, and it was James Harden, Norman Powell, and Ivica Zubac bringing his team to, some wins. And then in the offseason, you don't want to pay Norman Powell his money, so you let him go, and then you bring in Bradley Beal. And like even that was a move where everyone was like, "Why? Like, what are you gaining out of this? It doesn't make sense." And now we're back in a situation where in this offseason, Kawhi had the whole Pablo Torre aspiration thing going on, and then like a week and a half ago, he was in the press talking about how the team needs better players and like they don't have the personnel to compete. and now we're in a situation where Kawhi's going to play every few games, and you're back to a James Harden carry job situation, which he's too old to do. And they haven't been a serious franchise since Chris Paul, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a clear, almost like a metaphorical break for them to be like, all right, we're gonna sever ties with Chris Paul. We're also gonna sever ties with the best period in the history of our franchise
Yeah.
by,
Which, I mean,
doing
they did the
this.
same
Because he
shit
could
to
have
Blake
been
Griffin.
like he could have been their Dirk or whatever.
Yeah.
And I understand that Dirk isn't even really that now to the Mavs after what happened with Luca, but like he could have been a guy that was in the building that was giving advice to their young players. Like, who knows who
Hmm.
they're going to get once they start getting first round picks again?
Yeah.
Like, maybe they, get the first overall pick in 5 years or whatever. And having a Chris Paul around to mentor that guy is important.
Hmm. And that's
It's
like
like,
their
look at the
storyline.
relationship between Reggie and Tyrese.
Yeah. And I mean, the Clippers did the same thing to Blake Griffin, right? They signed him to this contract extension. Blake Griffin wanted
Yep.
to retire a Clipper, and then, hey, we're done. Bye. Like, I don't know. And the thing, too, the Clippers this season is I mean, coming into this season, like, I think, I forget exactly what your standings were, but I had them being better than they are now. I thought they were at least going to be a play-in team and then kind of fall apart in April
I
or
think I
whatever.
had him as the 6th seed, maybe.
Yeah, I think I had them at like 7 or something, just because by the end of the season they'd fall apart. But they're a month into the season, their two main storylines were, can James Harden stop the Thunder from getting another top 3 pick, and Chris Paul is retiring. This is his farewell tour. And now this is the main story of the Clippers for the season is, whoa, look how shitty they are to their players.
Yeah, it's just embarrassing.
Yeah. It's uh, I think it's time to have some serious conversations about Ty Lue as a coach. Um,
Yeah?
I mean, he's fine. I think he's an okay coach, right? Like I said earlier in this episode, I think he tends to be too much of a try to be friends with everybody kind of guy. But also, he hasn't done anything since LeBron. And I think it was B Souls or someone on YouTube was talking about how, post 2008, like 10 years, like in 2018, Doc Rivers was kind of looked at as like he's still riding the high of that 2008 championship, still getting jobs. And I think Ty Lue is getting there because he hasn't, I think he's had one conference finals appearance since 2016 with the
Yeah,
Clippers.
2021.
Yeah, and since then it's been second round exit, first round exit, missed playoffs. Like it's he hasn't done anything, and the Clippers have had guys. They've never had perfectly constructed rosters, but they got Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. They brought in James Harden. They brought in they Zubac blossomed. Like they had Norman Powell averaging 25 points per game. Like they've had guys. It's not like this team hasn't had personnel over the last 5 years, and it just hasn't been enough.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily agree. I'm still pretty on the Ty Lue's a pretty solid coach. Train.
I think he's solid, but I also think Doc
I
Rivers
think,
could get
or
you
a pretty
regular
good
season wins
coach.
too.
Um, I think he's better than Doc Rivers.
I mean, at this point, I agree.
I think a big part of the Zubats breakout, like Zubats had like a year 7 breakout. Like that doesn't happen without good coaching. Um,
I give James Harden a lot of that credit. He has a way of making guards,
yeah, that's
making
true.
his bigs better. He did the same with Clint Capella in Houston. I mean,
Yeah, but like that's the other thing for me is like the years where he did have healthy teams with the Clippers, they went deep. It was when Kawhi Leonard tore his ACL in 2021 in the conference finals. Like that's the reason they didn't go to the finals. It isn't anything else.
yeah,
Like
that's fair.
they've just had they've gotten fucked by injuries a lot. And I think he definitely mishandled this, but I'm not out on Ty Lue as a coach.
That's fair. Well, I think that's all I have about this Chris Paul saga. I wish a
Yeah.
thousand curses upon the Clippers franchise, and I hope they fade into irrelevancy and have to not even sell the team, not even relocate the team, just kind of dissipate. Get rid of
Well,
the
they've done a pretty
franchise.
good job of that themselves,
Yeah,
frankly.
yeah. Well, on that note, thanks you guys for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.
All right,
Bye.
bye.